Hello everyone, today is 19th of March, now it's 9:30 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for a day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Sorry for my voice, dear friends, I get cold again and I don't know how long this will last, but that's the voice that I have now. And well, before I start with the news, let me share with you a schedule of the programming. So because some members of our community on Rumble were not happy that I stopped making live streams with the Telegram Reports program several weeks ago, I made decision to resume these live streams on Tuesday and Thursday. So today is Tuesday, so 9 o'clock this evening I will try to start a live stream in which of course I will share all the news that will be available for that moment. And well, main plus of the live streams is that we can have exchange of opinions in real time and we can talk about anything really, from political topics to about sport, culture, life in general, just about anything. So hopefully everything will work out, and today 9 o'clock Moscow time this evening I will have a live stream on my Rumble channel. And meanwhile in the late afternoon I will have headlines, short summary of the news that I will talk about in the second news update of the day. And second news updates, as always, today also will be on my Patreon page. So yes, that's been said about schedule. Let's talk about news now. And well, first of all, short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. According to media reports and information of the military channels, Russian armed forces improved their positions in Rabotina area, which is of course Zaporozhye direction. And I just read a few minutes ago that Russian armed forces further improved their positions in the central parts of Rabotina, but still most northern part of this settlement still controlled by Ukrainian forces. Also, as I reported yesterday, Russian armed forces not just established control over the Mirnae, which is also Zaporozhye direction, but also Russian forces are conducting additional local scale offensive operations in Gulyai-Polye, basically Gulyai-Polye area. And maybe for today, maybe later on today, we will learn additional information about progress of Russian forces in that direction. When it comes to South Donetsk sector of the front line, main hotspot is of course Novomikhailivka village, this one which is disputed between the sides for quite a while now. Russian armed forces, according to some reports, established control over this northern farmed area, northern part of this village where these farms are located, but settlement is still disputed between the sides. And I get feeling that Russian armed forces not really keen to increase or speed up their offensive operations in this direction, probably for a reason. Russian armed forces significantly increased their activity in Ugledar direction. There was heavy bombings of Ukrainian positions in Ugledar, and maybe this is my reading of the picture. Maybe we will see some pincer offensive from Russian armed forces in South Donetsk sector, so that from the western part of Ugledar and from Novomikhailivka area, and maybe entire this sector from Ugledar to Novomikhailivka, maybe even from Vremovsky salient to Novomikhailivka will become encircled by Russian forces. Let's see how will situation develop. When it comes to Avdiivka direction, according to military channels, Russian armed forces further improved their positions in Toninka area, and some channels even are reporting that Toninka is under full Russian control at this point. And same information is circulating on internet about Orlovka, where Russian forces are controlling 80 to 90% of the village, at this point maybe even entire this settlement. And military channels also are predicting that Berdichi most likely in next several days will become under full Russian control. Progress of Russian forces in this area is also significant, and Ukrainian defense lines are not able to hold on to their positions and withdrawing step by step. When it comes to northern sectors of the front line, main hotspot on the northern flank of Donetsk sector is of course Chisovia direction, and Russian forces increasing pressure on Krasnaya, although this settlement is still disputed between the sides. It's Ivanovskaya. Yesterday I watched military channel's summary, military summaries report, and Dima, host of military summary, reported that Ukrainian forces conducted some counteroffensive operations in Ivanovskaya or Krasnaya and regained control over the some territories, but overall initiative is in Russian hands, and more than 50% of this village, as I understand, is under Russian control. And when it comes to Seversk direction, main hotspot is still Belogorovka on the eastern part of Seversk, and Razdolovka on the southern part of the Seversk. Seversk, in my opinion, will be next big hotspot. Seversk and surrounding areas, next big hotspot after Avdiivka. I said that almost straight away once Avdiivka will become under full Russian control, and the situation is developing in such a way that it is quite likely now that my prediction will become a reality, and we will see significant increase of Russian offensives in Seversk direction. Also, of course, on Krasny Liman sector, these villages, Yampolovka and Terny, still are hotspots, and Russian forces are trying to demilitarize additional Ukrainian units that are sent to reinforce local garrisons. And when it comes to Kupiansk direction, main hotspot is still Sinkovka, by the way, this village which is disputed for quite a long time. It's like Belogorovka, by the way. Belogorovka and Sinkovka is constantly hotspots, and battles are taking place for many months for these settlements. Probably all of you are informed that Kiev regime started evacuation, forceful or mandatory evacuation from Sumy region for borderline settlements, basically in Sumy region, and in Kharkov evacuation was conducted for some time ago. I guess Zelensky and his criminal associates are preparing for inevitable in my personal opinion, Russian offensive operations in these directions. First of all, to establish some buffer zone to secure Russian regions, Belgorod and Kursk regions, and also to liberate these territories from neo-Nazi regime in Kiev. You know my reading of the big picture. I believe after this conflict will end, there will be no more Ukraine on the political map at all. This failed state will be divided between Russia and its NATO neighbors, Poland, Hungary and Romania. Maybe Slovakia will have some claims on some parts of western Ukraine, let's see. And the rest of the Ukraine will be controlled by Russia, although one may argue that there is still slight chance that Kiev and surrounding areas like Kiev and Kiev region will remain as a landlocked quasi-state as a Ukraine. Who knows? Let's see. And this is it when it comes to short summary. As I said, there was no crucial changes on line of contact. Initiative is in Russian hands, and Kiev regime and its forces have no even chance to regain initiative on any of the directions. That being said, let's continue with some additional news now. And Lenta.ru is reporting that according to Ukrainian media outlets and Ukrainian military personnel, Russian armed forces increase aerial bombing of Ukrainian forces since the beginning of 2024 16 times. 16 times, by the way. I was thinking maybe this is kind of mistake. I mean, 16 times, it's just too big a number. And I checked on several other media outlets, and this is the number that was shared by Ukrainian media outlets. Okay, quite interesting, although how come that Kiev regime in one hand says that they almost destroy all Russian Air Force, and in other hand they are saying that Russian Air Force increased bombing of Ukrainian positions 16 times. I mean, how these two statements go hand to hand? I mean, but I guess intelligence and thinking is not the strongest side of Zelensky and his criminal associates. So whatever the case, of course, Kiev regime will use this type of statements to ask for more weapons and more money, their Western masters, and of course they will concentrate in this begging on air defense systems and fighter jets, Western fighter jets, if they will change something. Of course, no amount of Western air defense systems, no amount of Western fighter jets gonna change anything on line of contact significantly. They're not gonna influence final outcome of this proxy war that was waged against Russia by Western ruling class. TASS news agencies report that head of Turkish foreign ministry made a quite interesting statement that he is not expects end of hostilities in Ukraine in 2024. Excuse me. And unfortunately, I think he is correct. It is unlikely that hostilities will end in 2024. But it is what it is, man. In this particular case, Hakan Fidan, head of Foreign Ministry of Turkey, is absolutely correct, I'm afraid. RT is reporting that, and by the way, we should always keep in mind that this hostility should not last this long in the first place. And the Kiev regime was ready to sign up for peace agreement with Russia in March-April 2022, but after involvement, direct basically orders from Washington and London not to sign peace agreements with Russia, Kiev regime refused to continue negotiations, and since then conflict is only escalating further and further. And still, by the way, if Washington makes one call, just one call to Kiev, hostilities in general will end. But of course, Biden's administration and Western ruling class in general not gonna do this. RT is reporting that China is to boycott Ukraine's peace talks without Russia. According to Politico, China will boycott the talks to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict unless Moscow will have a seat at the table. Politico magazine, US media outlet, reported on Monday, citing officials familiar with the matter, quite understanding a position of China. Of course, Russia and China are allies in many ways and members of the BRICS, and therefore, of course, Beijing is directly or indirectly, but are in support of Russia, and are very pragmatical or practical. Same time, they know that there is no basement for any talks on Ukraine if Russia is not present. There is no that kind of talks don't make any sense. And well, I don't think Beijing wants to be part of these nonsensical gatherings of the people when they are talking about some nonsense. For example, Zelensky's peace formula, which is, I mean, crap. Moscow already said that this Zelensky so-called peace formula cannot be taken seriously. And Moscow will not participate in any of the conferences if topic of discussion is that nonsensical, delusional ideas of Zelensky. It's that simple. Anyway, let's continue. Lenta.ru is reporting that, well, according to Associated Press, by the way, North Korea transferred to Russia. You might get surprised by hearing these numbers, but according to Associated Press, North Korea transferred to Russia 7,000 containers with their munition and some weapon systems, which is quite interesting. I mean, 7,000 containers. Probably if all those containers, or like 70-80% of those containers, were filled with, let's say, munition, artillery shells, for example, most likely we are talking about some, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of shells, maybe even millions. But yet again, this is Associated Press's information. Here in Russia, officially, we never had any statements, I believe, that Russia is receiving any weapons or munition from North Korea. But if Russia does receive some weapon systems from North Korea or from any other country, by the way, it's all good. It's all good. If there is a opportunity to buy some weapon systems worldwide that are necessary right now, why should Russia refuse to do so? I mean, why? After all, it's entire NATO is fighting against Russia. They are sending all they got, with the exception of, I mean, at this point, only exception is fighter jets and nuclear weapons. Rest of it, whatever they had for ground forces, they did send it. And all they achieve is destruction of Ukraine and demilitarization of Kiev regime. And this process will continue. But number is quite interesting. 7,000 containers from North Korea. Wow. If it's true, of course, by the way. If it's true. TASS news agency is reporting that, well, Russian mission in UN stated that dialogue with the US on topic of strategic disarmament is possible if opposite side, if US and collective West in general will have a change of their course, current attitude towards Russia, which is oriented on escalation, further escalation. And this statement from Russian mission in UN comes as a response for calls of US mission in UN to start negotiations on a strategic disarmament process immediately without any preconditions. But yet again, big question is how Russia or China, and first of all, of course, US is interested, or Western ruling elites are interested to demilitarize Russia and China, because they're not gonna demilitarize themselves. They will lie. They will, of course, lie. Whatever agreements will be signed, they will demand from Russia and China to destroy some weapon systems that they have, but same time US will don't do it, because Washington cannot be trusted ever, ever. No matter how long human civilization will exist on this planet, Washington cannot be trusted ever. And same goes for Western, other major Western capitals. They cannot be trusted, by the way. And we know it, and Russian government knows this, and therefore this is quite a diplomatic way from Russian side, diplomatic statement to, you know, to stay away from Russia, basically. This is not yes, not no. This is this diplomatic way from Russian side to say, you know what, just go and kill yourself. That's it, really. RT is reporting that most Germans believe that their own army can defend them. According to poll numbers, interesting. Majority of Germans have little to no confidence in the military's ability to defend their nation in case of attack. According to a new survey, 3/4 of the respondents say they don't believe in the Bundeswehr's capabilities, with only 10% expressing confidence in the armed forces. Around 30% feel no confidence at all at the military would be able to stand up to a potential adversary. The poll, which was conducted by CERN on behalf of Focus magazine, found another 45% have low confidence in the military, with 15% undecided. Only 2% said their trust is very high, while 8% said it's rather high than low. Okay, quite interesting numbers. I wonder why German citizens have no confidence in their own military. Maybe because the German military have been effectively demilitarized by Russia. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe German citizens see what is happening with the German weapon systems. This highly advertised and promoted Leopard 2s, when they are burning like matches on the front line. You know, who knows? But good thing is for German society that at least Russia has no plans to attack Germany if not provoked. So when it comes to other countries in Europe, I don't know, man, who may attack Germany. Maybe Poland someday, I don't know. And Poland will definitely defeat Germany, I have no doubts about it, by the way. German army is a joke, that's for sure. RIA Novosti is reporting that, and German society knows this. I mean, according to this poll, German society well aware about capabilities of their military personnel. RIA Novosti is reporting that in Poland some accident happened with the US MQ-9 Reaper drone. This drone lost communication with its base and crash landed somewhere in Poland, and rumors are circulating now that maybe this drone was jumped from Kaliningrad region of Russian Federation on Baltics. Interesting, maybe Russian side was testing some equipment to jump these drones, or maybe it has nothing to do with Russia. I mean, any military equipment can undergo some malfunctioning and crash. Nothing extraordinary, really. But if it's Russian side, if Russian side jumped this drone, then that's interesting. It's good to know that Russia has technical opportunity to jump and destroy US drones. RT is also reporting that European NATO members are 56 billion euro behind on the military spending. I spoke about it yesterday in headlines and in my second news update on Patreon. Let's go through some news here. European members of NATO are 56 billion euro or $61 billion short of meeting the US-led bloc's minimum defense spending target. Research for the Financial Times by Germany's L4 Institute has suggested Washington accounted for 2/3 of the NATO's 1.3 trillion total spending in 2023, more than double the 393 billion jointly contributed by EU countries and the UK and Norway, the newspaper outlined on Saturday. According to research, Germany, Italy, Spain and Belgium were the furthest from meeting the bloc's goal of investing 2% of the GDP in defense, which NATO members agreed in 2014 following the outbreak of hostilities in Ukraine and the Crimea's reunification with Russia. Berlin spent 15.2 billion less than required last year, while Rome, Madrid and Brussels were 12 billion short, 12 billion, 11 billion and 5.1 billion short behind the target, respectively. L4 figures suggested Italy, Spain and Belgium were among the 6 EU nations with a debt above 100% of the GDP last year, the Financial Times is noting. So, okay, Okay, interesting numbers. NATO's overall budget, by the way, if we combine NATO member states, defense budget is 1.3 trillion, which is at least 13 times more than Russian defense budget. And this is a year-on-year basis with some minor changes. And still, by the way, still NATO is failing to achieve anything really against Russia by waging this proxy war. And that's why longer this conflict continues, by the way, more and more Western reputation will be damaged and destroyed, and more cracks will appear inside the NATO itself, because even though propaganda is a significant tool, a very powerful tool, and majority of the public in the West probably are indoctrinated by this Russophobia for this time, and will not ask any questions, no matter how much money they're gonna spend, or elites of the West gonna spend on their defense to enrich their military-industrial complex. But I believe more and more people are waking up and start asking questions, and as number of well-informed people will continue to increase, eventually cracks will definitely appear. They will start influencing their own countries, more and more policies of their own countries, and cracks among NATO member states will only increase, because it's gonna be hard to persuade well-informed Spaniards why they're gonna spend additional tens of billions of dollars, for example, for next 10 years, let's say, on defense, when no one is threatening Spain. Essentially, Russia is not threatening Spain in no ways, while inside the Spain there are so many issues that can be resolved by this level of investments, by tens of billions of dollars investments. And the same can be said about any other country in Europe, by the way, and US also. The US has like $700 to $800 billion budget, defense budget, and still are asking on regular basis for more US militaries, while 30 or 40 million of US citizens are receiving food stamps, by the way. And we are talking about, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not expert in US internal situation, but tens of millions of people in US are receiving food stamps, isn't it? And there is huge issue with the drug addiction in US. I mean, it's a catastrophe in that sense. Huge issues with the infrastructure that is crumbling, and so many really big issues. I mean, border security, for example. And they are spending 700-800 billion on what exactly? Year-on-year base. So yes, interesting numbers. Right now, 2/3 of this 1.3 trillion is paid by US, and well, I would not be surprised at all if really well-informed citizens of US will start asking questions. What the hell are we doing, really? Why we are spending so much time? Why we have so many bases worldwide, man? Why we need 800 or 900 bases when nobody is threatening us, really, and no one gonna invade us, because no one gonna do it. If we are talking about invasion of US, it's happening right now on the southern borders of US, and this invasion is not armed invasion. In general, it's a invasion of unarmed people from all around the world that are crossing US border like it's nothing. And of course, some criminal gangs are using this situation, of course, to smuggle whatever they want to smuggle, including weapons, in and out of US. But anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting that EU boss calls for war economy. Okay, more money for military-industrial complex, of course. The EU must reimagine its military strategy and drastically ramp up its defense production in order to help Ukraine in its ongoing conflict with Russia, European Council President Charles Michel said on Monday. What a predictable people these high-ranking officials of the West really are. Remember when I said that these scaremongering scare tactics that were deployed by US elites and US propaganda outlets, that Russia is coming, Russia gonna attack, war is inevitable, and so on. I was saying from the very beginning of that that new wave of anti-Russian hysteria that Western ruling elites gonna scare as much as possible societies in the West, and then use taxpayers' money in any ways they want, because there will be a little to none resistance. And that's exactly the case, isn't it? And now they are openly saying that, you know what, we have to spend more and more and more. And formally they are using Ukraine now, but once Ukrainian conflict will be resolved, they will come up with some other scare tactic. After all, Russia is still here, so they can always use Russia to scare people in the West and justify stealing of tens of and hundreds of billions of basically dollars and euros from the taxpayers to enrich themselves and multinational corporations. RT is reporting that Taliban accuses Pakistan of bombing civilians. Afghanistan's Taliban government accused Pakistan of killing 8 civilians in an air raid on Monday. The Islamic group responded by opening fire on Pakistani targets, allegedly wounding 7 people. Pakistani jets bombarded the homes of the civilians in the early hours of Monday morning, Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid said in a statement. Mujahid said that the bombing killed 8 people in the province of Paktika and Host, both of which borders Pakistan. Well, quite unfortunate development. Taliban used to have quite working relationships, let's say, with Pakistani secret services. And probably they still do have some level of cooperation, but on the borderline, still skirmishes are taking place on quite a regular basis. Sometimes it's Afghani forces that are opening fire on disputed areas. Sometimes it's Pakistan that conducting some strikes, and yesterday was one of those days. Interfax is reporting that President of Moldavia, asset of CIA, Maya Sandu made a statement, announced basically a referendum for October this year about Moldavia's integration with the European Union. I spoke about this yesterday in the second update. And well, let's see how will Moldavian society react, because society is not decided on this matter. I mean, society is split in Moldova when it comes to pro-Western, when it comes to opinion to be slaves of the West. I mean, there are a significant portion of Moldavian society who wants to be slaves of the West, and there are other people that wants to be free from the West, and therefore, you know, I like to see what kind of results this referendum will bring to us. But in any case, anti-Russian policies of Moldavian government definitely puts this country under the risks to undergo full-scale disintegration, because it's not just Transnistria that is declaring independence from Moldova, but there is Gagauzia, autonomous region there in Moldova, and Gagauz people are not happy at all with the current Western-controlled government of this country, and they have every right for self-determination. They have every right to declare independence from this CIA-run state, quasi-state, let's say. Moldova, not really state. Let's be real here. What state, man? What Moldova? Only chance to survive as a state they had was to be in great relationships with Russia, but Moldovan society somehow made it possible that CIA take over this country through their assets inside the Moldova, and now Moldova definitely is under high risk to undergo full-scale disintegration with all their subsequent consequences. RT is reporting that Red Sea attacks have in Suez Channel halving, disrupting basically Suez Channel trade significantly. The Suez and Panama channels have seen drops in trade of 50% and 32% respectively during the January and February of this year, compared with the same months in 2023. The International Monetary Fund is reporting, according to the fund's information, transit trade fell in the first 2 months of the 2022 due to Houthi attacks in the Red Sea and drought affected by the Panama Channel. Meanwhile, trade volume via the Cape of Good Hope, the most southwestern point of the African continent, went up by 74% in that same period. Interesting news. Well, you tell me how effective US and UK strikes on Ansar Allah movement or Houthi rebels were, because numbers are clearly showing that things only deteriorated after US and UK started bombing Yemen. If this country had not enough when Saudi Arabia and UAE were bombing for like 9 straight years. So not at all surprising numbers when it comes to Suez Channel. And when it comes to Panama Channel, that's a whole different story. Drought and some other technical also issues definitely making Panama Channel less useful, let's say, for this world, although it's still strategic part of the global maritime routes. But Panama Channel definitely losing its importance. And by the way, when northern shipping route, northern sea route of Russia will start working in full force, of course, these alternative routes that are existing now will basically lose their importance immensely, even more, because there is no shipping route in this world that can compete with Russia's northern sea route. It's just obvious fact. It's just geography. RT is reporting that when it comes to transporting goods from east to west and vice versa, RT is reporting that Ukraine won't extend Russian gas transit deal. According to officials, Kiev has no plans to prolong gas transit to the EU from Russia when the current contract expires this year. Ukrainian Energy Minister German Galushenko has stated, and well, okay, interesting. European states will still continue to receive Russian gas, for example, LNG, or through Turkish pipelines. But when it comes to Ukrainian gas infrastructure, without Russian gas, this gas infrastructure will become totally unusable. Kiev does make sometimes statements that they're gonna use this infrastructure for this and for that, but that's wishful thinking. In reality, only reason for that entire industry, by the way, in Ukraine was transit of Russian gas. Without it, those pipelines probably will be digged out from Earth and sold as a metal scrap. RIA Novosti is reporting that, and it will only take like few years, and that pipeline system will be damaged so much that it will never be probably used again ever. RIA Novosti's report that majority of Armenian banks from 30 of March will stop accepting Russian Mir card. Okay, yet another step of Armenian government to further destroy relationships with Russia. Okay, at this point, there is not even point to comment on Armenian government's actions. We all know they are anti-Russian extremists, assets of CIA in the Southern Caucasus region, and the danger for safety and security of entire region. And for Armenian society also. But if Armenian society is happy with these individuals in their government, Pashinyan and so on, if Armenian society wants to be run by ambassador of US in Armenia, or ruled by US ambassador, then I mean it's their choice. Okay, do whatever you want to do, man. Then just be ready for consequences. That's it, really. Someone have to tell society of Armenia that only they can blame only themselves when things go sour. RT is reporting that oil prices hit 4 months high, reaching $86 per barrel, which is interesting. Partially, this is due to recent strikes of Kyiv regime on Russian refineries in the western parts of Russia, but also there are some other factors involved, and well, in any case, oil prices in between $80, $100, $120 probably are quite optimal for world economy right now, and good for Russia, of course. I care about Russian interests, although of course all the other big oil exporter countries will also benefit from high prices, but it's always has to be some golden middle ground be found, because extremely low level prices are not good for world economy, and extremely high prices also are not good for world economy. So it's always has to be this balancing act between you know. And anyway, I will end this update with this news that CERN made the decision to terminate contracts with about 500 specialists that have connection with Russia. Interesting. Let me translate this for you. So at the end of November, the European Organization for Nuclear Research, CERN, will, and this is by the way Big Hadron Collider in Switzerland. I mean this huge object that speeds up particles almost towards light speed, just little less, because light speed cannot be reached, I guess, because it will demand so much energy that you know. So yes, they are accelerating particles, elementary particles towards light, you know, lights as much as possible, and crushing them. Of course, all of you are familiar with this Big Hadron Collider, and some very important scientific discoveries have been made there in CERN. But unfortunately, politics are getting away of the scientists' work, and well, at the end of November, European Organization for Nuclear Research will cease cooperation with the approximately 500 specialists with the ties to Russia. CERN spokesman Armud Mursoler told the RIA Novosti, at the moment we have less than 500 users who are still associated with any Russian organization. most of whom do not live in this region, Switzerland. The suspension of the cooperation agreement will come into force on November 30 this year. Okay, by the way. Okay, it's unfortunate. What can I say? It's unfortunate, but expectable, because unfortunately Western scientific world is also influenced by propaganda. They are receiving orders directly from criminal elites of the West, and that's what they do, man. They are terminating contracts with the 500 specialists from Russia just because they are Russians, man. If this is not the Nazism and the fascism, then you tell me what this is. In which direction Western world is heading, by the way? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, Russian scientists will be okay. Russia can build its own Hadron Collider, and there is several colliders in Russia, by the way. Russia is one of the leading countries when it comes to the research of elementary particles and physics and mathematics anyway, and it will still this way. But it's sad to see that even Western scientific world is getting politicized and acting now as a Russophobes. It's just sad, man. But it is what it is. It is what it is, man. And they will come up and say, with some justifications, they will try at least, not to be seen as some kind of Nazi Russophobes, but that's what they really are, man. They are immoral degenerates. Immoral degenerates, man, because no matter who will order them to act this Nazi way, if they had any principles and morality and dignity, they should resign. They should just resign and not apply, not obey these Nazi orders. But they did not. And therefore, there can be no respect for anybody who will stay in CERN after this. This is my take on the situation anyway, and well, quite long update, or relatively long update. Hopefully you will find it interesting and informative, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary about any topic you like. More likes and comments will help to deal with the algorithms on YouTube and Rumble, and will allow me to reach wider audience. And for very same reason, if you can, please share links to my videos or my channels with your friends on any platform that you are actively using. And finally, if you think this channel, this small media project of mine with several channels, several programs, is useful, interesting, informative, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, Boosty. By the way, I'm still almost saying buy me coffee, but unfortunately I was cancelled on buy me coffee just because I'm Russian citizen, man. It is what it is, and I'm using now Boosty. So yes, if you find this small project of mine interesting and useful, and one that deserves to exist, please consider to support through PayPal, Boosty, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. All the links are in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.